Retro Rob plays everything.
Hey, Rob here, and today I'm going to do a show and tell on my modded Game Boys and DS's. It's not a huge collection, but I'm almost always for like about the last, I don't know, year or so in a continuous state of modding stuff. So I thought I'd show you a few of them that I like, and there's a couple in here that one is in process, and I'm not going to show you yet, though I'll talk about it a little bit because it's just too rough still to show. I want to show it once I get some decent results from it. And the other one is one I'm going to be working on shortly. Alright, so let's start at the beginning with one of my first mods. This is a Game Boy Pocket, black and white one. And I've hacked it to have a backlight because, you know, originally they did not have a backlight on them. There we go. There's Paperboy. It wasn't too bad. Honestly, it's a pretty easy one to do. So if you're just starting out, this isn't the worst one to do. And as you can see, it works pretty well. Ooh, it's in demo mode. There we go. But it sure helps in seeing it. Now I realize, honestly, I could have just hacked a later one or just used a later model, but there's something kind of neat in modernizing these, and this way this doesn't end up in the junk heap. And I feel the same way about all of these. Some of these were done for like repair reasons and other things. Alright, so anyway, next. Game Boy Advance. This one also has had a backlight mod. This one was a little bit more difficult. Not the easiest mod I've done. It was very hard to get it all to fit in the case. This isn't a complete screen replacement, as some are. This is the original screen, but I've added a backlight to it. It's one of my favorite games for the Game Boy Advance. One of the reasons why I did this particular mod, here I'm going to turn that down because I can totally hear that. One of the reasons why I did this mod is because I like the form factor of this better than the Game Boy SP. It just feels better in my hands because I've got pretty big hands, and the SP has the controls, I'll show you that in a minute, much closer, and it makes it a little bit harder for me to hold. So there we go. That looks beautiful. This is one of my favorites. I really do love this thing quite a bit, and I still use it regularly even though I have better devices to play it on. But are they really better? I think not. I got another one of these that I'm going to do this mod to as well and probably put it up on eBay. Alright, next. We have the Game Boy SP. This is the original one, and I've brightened the screen a little bit. Now, I'll put a link down to all these mods, but this one I'll also put a link to. This was on Reddit. Basically, I ran a resistor across a power source and basically added a little bit more voltage to the backlight system. Is essentially what's going on. At least that's what we figured is going on. It doesn't look that great here, but next to the original brightness, it actually is quite a bit brighter. It did a good job. We were all kind of Googling over it after it got done. Oogling over it after it got done. This is super easy to do. I actually did it on Guys, Games, and Beer, where usually I'm kind of buzzed up. So if I was able to do this mod on a buzz, you can definitely do it. There's actually another further mod for this as well, and I'll put the link down. I'll put the link down below. The negative of this, of course, is reduced battery life, as it is for both of these. This mod reduces battery life on all these systems, so the battery life isn't quite as good. This one, it doesn't get it as bright as, say, the 101 model of this, but it certainly does increase the brightness quite a bit. By the way, you can change the resistance to get a brighter and brighter screen, but you're going to run into a problem where eventually it'll wash out the colors. So, fair warning. I was thinking about just sticking a potentiometer in here, but this is so tight, it's hard to stick a pot in there. Maybe if I can find a smaller potentiometer, I could stick it in there and maybe run it out of the bottom of the battery case. I'll try that. I'll update you if I ever do that. It's possible because I've been kind of on a tear for this type of stuff lately. Alright, so this one, what was this one? This one's the victim of a dead top screen, so what I did is I bought another case and I wanted to make a two-tone DS. And I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Now, originally, the top was going to be black, and the bottom was going to be white, because then, if it got dirty, who cares? It was on the bottom. But they sent me this Final Fantasy version of it. I had ordered a plain one, and I got a Final Fantasy cover, which is way better. I mean, it's way cooler, but it caused me to have to redo the top deck of it, which I guess I had to do anyway, but it ended up making me reverse it from what I was originally going to do, because I wanted this to be white on black. But oh well, it's alright. No big deal. I think it turned out really good. I like the look. It's kind of a one-of-a-kind unit. I went with this. You ska folks, look at that. It's almost like a ska. It's almost a ska designed DS. And then I actually went and bought Final Fantasy 3, so I could run Final Fantasy 3 on a Final Fantasy 3 DS, which is totally fake. But it really does. I think it turned out great. This is the original bottom still, and then of course the top is a aftermarket. Goodness, that's loud. Oh, another thing that was wrong with this one. I forgot about it, and I was going to do a video on that. This one came with a sheared off power button. So I had to go solder on a new power button. That was kind of bad too. But anyway, it turned out really well. I like it. Love the look of it. There were a couple problems, some notes. The screws in the kit were a little bit too long. They ended up going through the deck a little bit. So I've got to go. I gotta go fill those with some fill. I'll actually probably just use some flat paint and fill it in there and then sand it a little bit. Actually, not sand. I shouldn't say sand because somebody will go and sand it. I've actually got some polish that is kind of rough, and it'll just work that away without wrecking the surface. Anyway, really like this. Really like the way it turned out, and pretty nice. A little note on these. This is kind of a pain in the butt, largely because of the way you install the top screen. Hold on a second, I'm going to show you something. Okay, so anyway, here is a tip, and it cost me a couple screens probably years ago before I was doing this more regularly, but I know a lot of my friends have had problems with this too, so I wanted to tell you about it. If you get an aftermarket case and you're getting ready to feed the ribbon from the top half of this case into the bottom half, which is this guy right here, very often the aftermarket ones do not have this slit. This one's actually pretty good, but this slit is very often not well defined. It will either not be wide enough or it'll have obstructions in it. So just take a little razor blade and cut in there and clear it out, and make sure you clear it out really good, and it should just slide in there. If it takes you like more than 2-3 attempts, this isn't wide enough. Go cut it up a little bit wider. Don't hack it or anything, but just clear it up so that it's easier to get through. You shouldn't have to force it. If you have to force it, you could damage that cable, and that ribbon is very easy to damage. So anyway, there's a pro tip before going on. Not that I'm a real pro, but anyway, it is a tip. Take it for what it is. Anyway, so I really like the way this one turned out. Next we have the clear DS. Now this one is a bit of a bionic man. It's made of parts of several DS's. It originally came in and had a broken hinge, but the hinge was broken because this little barrel in here had frozen, so I had to order a new barrel for it. I also ended up ordering this case. These clear cases look really cool, but they're amazingly cheap, and they're not as well done as this one was done. This one was actually really done very well, even though it's an aftermarket. This one was really pretty crappy. It was missing a lot of features, like there's a little nut that holds this screw in on the other side of the case. It didn't have that, so you had to transplant it from the other case, but I didn't have the one from the other case because it was pretty wrecked up and I whipped it out, which I guess was a mistake, but come on. I do these over the course of a couple weeks. But anyway, also the Y button was printed sideways, so when you put it in, it was like slightly off angle, so I ended up using the original buttons for this, which I did keep, of course. The other thing was there's a lot of fit and finish problems. I had to do a lot of like sanding and such to get this to fit straight. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with the results. One thing I would like to do with it maybe is take an LED somewhere and maybe add an extra light to it, maybe a green light, give it a kind of a green glow. I might do that before MGC this year. There are stoppers that came with it for these. You'll notice that I did put it on the Final Fantasy one, but I thought it looked kind of cooler without it. I like this kind of, you know, kind of techy, rough look, and it did come with this and a clear stylus, so I'm pretty happy with it all in all, even though this one was a bit rougher to do than some of the other ones. This one I definitely had to do a little bit of cutting with a razor blade to get this cable through too. This was a son of a gun to get through, but really happy with the results. I like it a lot. I'll probably keep this one and this one just because I like them both so much, and get rid of my nice original two-color one. Alright, finally, well, actually I'll talk about the one that I'm working on. I'm working on a Game Boy Color front light. I have not been happy with the results so far. One thing that I found is that the glue I was using to adhere the screen, I think it was expired. Apparently that Loka glue is only good for about 3 months, and I think mine was expired. It had no expiration on it, but it just, it would not stick right. You'd get all the bubbles out, it would look great, and then I would dry it, and eventually micro bubbles would show up. It would start separating from the front. On one of the screens, I think it was due to the fact that the screen itself was kind of bent. It was a really beat up Game Boy that I used for it, and it had been abused. But in the other case, it just seemed like it wouldn't sit there right. So I found out that Loka has a really low lifespan, and it is quite possible that the Loka glue I used was bad. I was also trying to adjust it without the Loka glue, and that seems to be working okay because I can use a pot. I put a potentiometer instead of a resistor. A potentiometer is a variable rate resistor in there, and I was able to adjust it so it looked really pretty good. And then last minute I said, that's it, I'm going to Loka this and it's going to look awesome. And it did look awesome, but those bubbles showed up again. Not, like I said, it isn't something that shows up because I can run it without putting it in the case, and those little micro bubbles aren't there. They're fine. It's when I'm putting it in the case and I push the back onto it, it gets just enough pressure and those bubbles show up. It's terrible. And it just ruins the look. It probably would be okay for a lot of people, but I'm kind of psycho about that stuff. So it's not going to fly for me until I get it absolutely right. And then I'll show it to you. But it's close. It's getting closer. Alright, so finally, this one is a LED backlight hack I'm doing. So this one is a Ben Ven backlight kit. And this, of course, is a replacement kit. This is essentially a SP101 screen from one of these guys over here. And you put it into your Game Boy Color. Now, this is an original Pokemon Game Boy Color. Don't cry too much for it while it does run. It does have sound problems, so I'm going to have to mod it out anyway. But this mod comes with this cable. It was about $100 basically, and it came with a gizmo, which is for earlier versions of the. That was nice, by the way. They gave it free to me. What's kind of funny is I didn't I didn't fully research this. I didn't know what a gizmo was, and I thought the French R&B guy had been arrested, and they were saying free gizmo. But anyway, no, that's this little guy here, and this is for correcting video problems on earlier versions of the Game Boy Color, which I think this is, so that's a thank you. I hadn't researched enough when I bought it to know what that was, so thanks for that one. But what I do know is that the majority of the guts are going to come out of this. It's a very substantial hack, requires a lot of work. The only reason I haven't actually started on this yet is I didn't realize early on that I'm going to probably need to replace the LED on this, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to try and shave off the LED on this a little bit to try and fit it in there or not, or I hear you can replace it with another surface mount type LED. So I might just do that. And I haven't really decided yet, so I didn't want to open this thing up until I'm ready to go. The screen from this is going to go into one of my other donor machines that's going to get the front light. So then hopefully that'll finish it up. And that is it. Oh yeah, and I got to fix the sound on this one because the sound's bum. But that's a pretty easy fix. Alright, that is it. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more. It's going to be a tight week. I'm going to have a lot of different stuff coming in. Indie Gems is going to return, which is my indie gaming showcase type of thing that I do. So watch for that, because it's going to be a dual stick shooter that is really pretty good. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye.
Retro Rocks gaming videos.